Welcome to the Career Ready podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at College of DuPage. I am one of your hosts, Marisela Morales. Today, I'm going to talk about using AI in the job search process and the implications when not conducted properly.
And I'm your other co-host for this episode, Michelle Malik. I'm going to start our episode today by answering a question about how to prepare yourself for a virtual interview, which was submitted to our listener mailbag at careerpodcast@cod.edu. A listener this week asked us, I've got a virtual interview coming up soon and was wondering how to prepare for it. So this is a really great question. Online interviews are becoming more and more common, especially since the pandemic. So it's really good for you to prepare yourself for that virtual environment. Here are a few things that you should keep in mind. So the first thing I want to talk about is preparing your materials that you need for the interview. So make sure you have access to your resume, your cover letter, and the job description. When applying to a job, I would save the job posting right then and there because sometimes when companies start the interview process, they do take down the posting completely. So then there's no way to reference it in the future. For your materials, you can either print these out or position them next to your virtual interview, really whatever works best for you and is the least distracting for you. You should also be doing company research, and you can have your notes with you as well should you need to reference that information. You should also have the questions you'll ask at the end of an interview written down somewhere too. Also, to prepare, practice your interview skills. So you'll want to anticipate questions about your work history, strengths and weaknesses, career goals. For a list of questions, you can find these online. And then also practice by using a virtual interview platform, a friend or family member, or even in front of the mirror. What I like to do is I like to write down examples or stories of my own that relate to each job task to prepare for behavioral questions. So after you've got that down, you've prepared your materials and you've interviewed yourself essentially, you also want to pick a place to interview and check your equipment the night before. So I say the night before because if something needs to be adjusted or fixed, it can be done well before your interview happens. So the first thing I want to tell you is pick a quiet place to interview. So think about a place where you can really focus. And if it's not at home, you could always contact your local library to reserve a room. Also, when you're interviewing, try to interview in front of a blank wall to minimize distractions. And lastly, if you're meeting at home, think about a plan for your pets. So for example, is there a place in your house that you can interview that your pets don't have access to? I know if I'm in the same room as my cat, she's definitely going to be joining me for my interview, so I want to avoid that. The other thing you want to do is log into the virtual platform. So this could be Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or whatever the company has chosen. And this is where you're going to test your camera and sound quality. So if you're using headphones during the interview, you may have to adjust the audio settings for the interviewers to hear you. And then this is also an opportunity for you to choose an appropriate virtual background. So something, again, that's plain to avoid distractions if you don't have access to a blank wall. The other thing you should be doing is to wear your interview attire as you're testing your camera because you can see how that attire looks on your camera and you may need to make some adjustments. The other thing I'll say about attire is make sure you're wearing what you would wear to an interview. So for example, if you look nice, with your suit jacket and you have a nice blouse or shirt on, but then you're wearing sweatpants and you have to stand up for a moment during the interview, this is what the interviewer is going to see. And again, we want to avoid that. Also with technology, make sure you test the link the night before too. So make sure it displays the correct interview time. Are you able to start the meeting or are you denied access? This actually happened to me one time. So if there are any issues like that come up with the link, be sure to send an email to the interviewer the night before because they may have to update the invite before you meet with them. And then lastly, during the interview, we do suggest logging in about 5 to 10 minutes early so your interviewers aren't waiting on you. Maintaining eye contact in an in-person interview is important, so we want to maintain eye contact with the camera. There's a trick that somebody taught me that you can tape a small picture above your camera so it looks like you're maintaining eye contact with the camera, and then it looks like you're looking at the interviewer, so you could give that a try. Feel free to take notes during the interview as needed, but again, you should be maintaining that eye contact with the interviewer. Another tip, technology-wise, is sometimes when the interviewer is speaking, I will mute myself just to minimize distractions as well, so you can feel free to use that tip. The other thing I'll do is also prepare for technical glitches. So I like to keep the interviewer's contact information with me in case I have to call them back, maybe send them an email or re-enter the virtual meeting as well. And we've already mentioned this in previous episodes, but after your interview is over, you'll also want to send a thank you email to each person you've met with within 12 to 24 hours. We hope these tips are helpful for you, and now I'll turn it over to Mari to talk about using AI in the job search process.
Thank you so much, Michelle. AI tools are increasingly becoming an important part of the job search process. As a matter of fact, according to an article by Resume Builder, entitled Job Seekers Who Use ChatGPT Negotiated Higher Salaries, estimated that approximately 18% of job seekers are currently incorporating AI into various stages of their job seeking process, and with much success. Some of these positive outcomes include ChatGPT users are more likely to negotiate higher salaries, as the title of the article implies, as well as having a higher likelihood of getting called in for a job interview. So how can we use AI to assist us in the job seeking process? AI can be used for resume enhancement, career exploration, interview practice, networking, job search, and self-assessment and skill building. There are many AI resources available for us to use, many of which are free or have free trials available. Although today's episode will not be going into depth into how to use all of these different resources, we will be touching topics a little further in depth in future episodes, so please be sure to join us then. In the meantime, let's do a brief rundown of some of the resources that we do have available, as well as how to implement them into our job search process. For resume assistance, tools like JobScan and VMock provide free basic services, such as providing a resume scan or provide templates. But they also offer additional services with a paid subscription. Now, I do want to note that at our institution, we offer VMock to our students. So even though they have that one free resume scan, please check with your institutions or career service centers just in case they also offer access to those paid subscriptions. In addition, there are also tools with grammar and writing. Grammar and writing tools like Grammarly and ProWriting Aid help refine resumes and cover letters with free options available for basic checks, while advanced suggestions require a premium plan. When it comes to research and preparation, platforms like ChatGPT offer free access for gathering company insights and role analysis, with premium versions of ChatGPT providing more advanced features. As for interview preparation, tools like Interview Warmup help candidates practice, while Big Interview offer more comprehensive services for a fee. Now, I do want to note that this is yet another app that we provide to our students and community members if they come in and ask for assistance to us, and they're able to access this again for free. So I encourage our listeners to please reach out to their institutions and or career services centers, because there may be very similar websites that are available for free, provided that they have, a password or what have you. As for networking assistance, you can find assistance through LinkedIn tools, even through Resume Builder. You can also get help with the job search process through Teal HQ and Hunter, which help track applications with the basic version. However, you can get more advanced tracking features behind the paywall. Finally, platforms like LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, and Udemy provide self-assessments and skill-building opportunities, with some free courses available, but the majority of them requiring a paid subscription. It is important to add that many AI generative platforms, such as the aforementioned ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, and the recently released DeepSeek, are also capable of assisting in many of the job-seeking tasks, provided that you use the right data and proper prompts. When using these platforms, though, it is important to follow some important rules. For example, do not input any sensitive data. Always use AI generative platforms with the understanding that this information can be shared with other individuals. So, for example, if you are uploading your resume for tips on improving the resume, or one activity that I like, one exercise that I like to do with my job seekers is I like to upload resumes as well as a job description, and I like to have the AI generative platforms compare and contrast the resume and the job postings to see, how do I match? How do I not match? How can I make my resume better, be better tailored for the job that I am seeking? But before ever inputting any of the information, I always remove any identifying information, even so far as changing the name of the colleges and workplaces. This is because we always have to go in assuming that it is accessible to others, even when you put in, because I know that there are AI generative platforms where you can request to make it private, to not be shared. Please understand that it will probably be shared anyway. This is because they use our data to improve their algorithms. Another tip that I want to, that I highly recommend is that you double check the information to make sure that it is factual. And particularly if you are using this on documents that you are going to be submitting to others, make sure that it sounds like you. Why is this important? So early on, when I first started this conversation, when I first started the discussion on using AI for the job-seeking process, I highlighted its increasing usage and some of the positive outcomes. But now let's go ahead and talk about the pitfalls. The fact is that there is a downside to using AI, and that is that some prospective employers are reluctant, if not outright opposed to using AI. In fact, going back to the article that I previously quoted by Resume Builder, 29% of the respondents had stated that they did not get a job after the prospective employer found out they had used an AI generative platform. A similar sentiment was reported in an article by Forbes entitled "Why 80% of Hiring Managers Discard AI Generative Job Applications from Career Seekers." In this article, which was aptly titled, they found that 80% of hiring managers had an unfavorable feeling of using AI for resumes and cover letters, with about 57% stating that they were significantly less likely to hire an applicant or even consider speaking to an applicant if they had used AI. So why is that? Why are they so reluctant to bring in applicants that use AI-generated professional documents? This is because hiring managers feel that AI-generative materials come off as very generic, very inauthentic. Not only that, but as I had mentioned before, there is also the possibility of incorrect information. Sometimes the information that is produced by AI is either going to be embellished or it can come off as unnatural. So what is the lesson that we can learn from this? The lesson to take away is not to stay away from AI, because the fact is that this is a growing skill set and it is not going anywhere. Instead, we have to acknowledge its intended purpose, and that is to see it as a tool rather than a substitute. We need to make sure that when we use AI, particularly when using it for our professional documents such as resumes and cover letters, things that are going to be submitted to somebody else, we make sure that we are the ones that come across in our documents rather than the AI generative platform. This is important because, again, it's about authenticity accuracy, but it's also about consistency. So if you put yourself into these documents, you will have consistency in your resume, your cover letter, and then finally, your job interview. Because remember that these items, these professional documents, are what may be used for your interview questions. So if you are unable, and this is actually something that I heard, this is an anecdotal bit, but this actually did happen to a job seeker that I had spoken with. She informed me that they asked her a question based on the information that was in her resume. Unfortunately, she didn't know the meaning of the word. And because of that, she likely did not get the job. I mean, it definitely did not have good implications. And so we have to make sure that when we turn in professional documents, it is us. We are the ones that are represented. And so that when we go in for that job interview, we continue to represent ourselves.
Thanks for that information, Mari. I didn't know about some of those programs, so I'm glad that you were able to go through them. And just to kind of echo your point, you need to remain authentic and make sure that, you're like, I loved what you said, you're using AI more so as a tool instead of a replacement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because as much as we love AI, and it is going to make your life easier, please use it, because the job seeking process can feel overwhelming, especially when we are asking individuals to tailor resumes. But that's also the thing is with AI, it kind of frees you up. It makes the process easier so that you can tailor your resumes and your cover letters a little better. But never forget who the applicant is. And that is you. It's not the AI alternative platform.
Right. And I also think, too, with AI, it's a good starting point. Like, it can help you brainstorm. So, yeah, I'm glad that our listeners know about all of this information. And we want you to keep tuning in because we're going to talk a lot about AI this season.
Absolutely. We have a lot of really wonderful tips.
Thanks to all of our listeners for joining us today. We hope you feel better prepared to use AI in the job search. And earlier in the episode, you did hear an answer to a listener question. Just a reminder, if you have a question you want to hear answered in a future episode, you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu. As we end here, we encourage you to join us for our next episode where we will talk about the benefits of volunteering.